I'm Natalie Kim, and for 9 years I've watched my older sister Veronica build her life on a foundation of lies while treating me like I was invisible. When she hired a private investigator to prove I was faking success to make her look bad, she accidentally hired the one person thorough enough to discover that I wasn't the fraud in our family. This is the story of how my sister's quest to expose me became her own prison sentence. If you've ever been dismissed by your own family, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. Veronica was always the star. 3 years older, effortlessly beautiful, charismatic in the way that made strangers trust her instantly. She'd been homecoming queen, sorority president, married at 24 to Jason Chin, a successful entrepreneur, whose business ventures always seemed impressive but remained vaguely defined. They lived in an enormous house in the suburbs, drove matching Range Rovers, took exotic vacations that flooded social media. Veronica didn't work. She called herself a lifestyle influencer, with 47,000 Instagram followers who watched her post about her perfect life. I was the boring little sister. The quiet one who liked math and computers, who went to state school instead of Veronica's private university, who worked in something with technology that no one at family gatherings could quite understand or care to ask about. Natalie's doing her computer thing, Veronica would say dismissively at family dinners, waving her manicured hand like she was swatting away a fly. Very technical. Very niche. What they didn't know, I was the founder and CEO of Quantum Systems, a cybersecurity firm specializing in quantum-resistant encryption algorithms. We protected government agencies, major financial institutions and defense contractors from the emerging threat of quantum computing attacks. I'd started the company 7 years ago with my college friend Marcus Lee. We'd identified a critical vulnerability. Traditional encryption would become obsolete once quantum computers became powerful enough. We developed algorithms that could resist quantum attacks. The Department of Defense noticed us first. Then the NSA. Then every major bank that understood what was coming. By year 3, we had 15 clients paying between $2 million and $8 million annually. By year 5, we'd been acquired by a Fortune 100 technology conglomerate for $280 million. I retained 45% ownership and full operational control as CEO. My personal payout from the acquisition: $126 million. Current annual compensation: $620,000 salary plus equity worth approximately $89 million. Total net worth: $178 million. I'd never told my family any of this. Why? Because Veronica had spent our entire lives competing with me for things I never wanted. Our parents' attention, social status, validation from strangers. I needed to know if she could love me as Natalie the person, not Natalie the threat to her supremacy. I got my answer years ago. But I kept watching, kept documenting, kept building my company while she built her facade. I lived in a comfortable but modest townhouse in the city. I drove a 4-year-old Toyota. I wore sensible clothes to family events. When Veronica posted about her designer purchases and luxury trips, I double-tapped and said nothing. At family gatherings, she'd hold court, showing photos of her latest vacation or renovation project. Mom and Dad would praise her taste, her lifestyle, her success at building a brand. Then they'd turn to me with polite obligation. "And Natalie, how's work?" "Good." "Still at that tech company?" "What do you do again?" "Cybersecurity. Algorithm development." Blank stares. Then back to Veronica. "Veronica's doing so well," Mom would say proudly. "Building her platform, creating content. It's like running a small business." Meanwhile, Quantum Systems had just secured a $47 million contract with the Department of Homeland Security. We were expanding to a second office in Washington, D.C. Forbes had reached out about profiling me as one of the top female CEOs in cybersecurity. I'd declined. I wasn't ready for my family to know. My business partner Marcus knew about my family situation. "Nat, your sister posts about her blessed life 3 times a day while you're actually building something that matters. Why do you keep going to these dinners?" "Because I need to see how far the lie goes," I'd said. Veronica's lifestyle has never made sense. Jason's businesses are always changing. The money doesn't add up. "You think something's wrong?" "I think when you build a life entirely on appearance, something has to be holding it up. And it's not hard work or legitimate income." I was more right than I knew. What I didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Veronica and Jason's perfect life was funded by systematic fraud. Jason's entrepreneurial ventures were investment schemes. He'd recruit investors with promises of revolutionary tech startups, green energy projects, real estate developments. He'd show them glossy presentations, fake financial projections, testimonials from previous investors, who were actually friends paid to lie. People would invest. The money would go into accounts Jason controlled. He'd send quarterly statements showing impressive returns, all fabricated. When investors wanted to cash out, he'd stall, make excuses, eventually pay them from new investor money. Classic Ponzi scheme, dressed up in millennial entrepreneur clothing. Veronica wasn't just complicit, she was the star salesperson. Her Instagram influence, her charisma, her blessed life aesthetic brought in investors constantly. If Jason and Veronica are living this well, his investments must be amazing. Over 5 years, they'd recruited 63 investors. Total money raised, $8.4 million. Actual investments made, approximately $300,000, most of which lost money. The rest went to fund their lifestyle. The house, the cars, the vacations, the designer clothes that maintain the illusion of success. The math was inevitable. Eventually they'd need more new money than they could recruit. Eventually someone would want their money back and wouldn't accept excuses. Eventually it would collapse. That eventually arrived in March, 9 months before everything exploded. One of Jason's investors, a retired engineer named Robert Martinez, wanted to withdraw $150,000 for medical expenses. Jason stalled. Market volatility. Wait until May. May came. Jason stalled again. Better opportunities in Q3. You'll maximize returns. Robert got suspicious. He hired a forensic accountant to review his investment documents. The accountant found irregularities within hours. Investments that didn't exist. Returns that didn't match any actual market performance. Bank transfers that went to personal accounts, not investment vehicles. Robert demanded his money immediately. Jason promised it was coming. Weeks passed. Nothing. Robert filed complaints with the SEC and FBI. Jason and Veronica panicked. An investigation would uncover everything. They needed a distraction, a scapegoat, someone to shift focus onto. They chose me. It was November when Veronica announced she was hosting a special family brunch at Riverside Gardens, an expensive restaurant overlooking the water. Sunday at 11, mandatory attendance. I showed up in my usual outfit. Dark jeans, a cashmere sweater, minimal jewelry. Veronica arrived 20 minutes late in head-to-toe Gucci, her entrance orchestrated for maximum impact. The entire family was there. Mom and Dad, Aunt Susan and Uncle Michael, Cousin Jennifer and her husband, even my grandmother. A table for 12, set with champagne and mimosas. Veronica stood, tapping her champagne flute. Thank you all for coming. I know you're wondering why I called this brunch. Everyone looked at her expectantly. She loved an audience. 4 years, Natalie has been secretive about her life. About her job, her finances, everything. She lives modestly, dresses simply, claims to work in tech but never shares details. All eyes turned to me. I sipped my water calmly. At first I thought she was just private. But then I started noticing things. How she never asks for money. How she's never impressed by our success. How she seems almost smug when we talk about our achievements. Veronica, what are you talking about? Dad frowned. I think Natalie has been hiding her success to make the rest of us look shallow. I think she's secretly wealthy and has been playing poor to prove some kind of point. Mom leaned forward. Natalie, is that true? Is what true? Are you secretly successful? Veronica's voice had an edge. Have you been lying about your career to make me look bad? I've never lied about my career. You've never told us anything about it. Veronica's voice rose. You're deliberately vague. You hide information. And I'm tired of wondering if my own sister is judging me. So you did what? I asked quietly. She smiled triumphantly. I hired a private investigator. David Reynolds from Reynolds Investigative Group. Cost me $12,000, but it was worth it. He's been investigating you for 2 months. Your finances, your employment, everything. She gestured to a man sitting at a nearby table. Late 40s, gray suit, laptop bag. He stood and approached. This is David Reynolds. I asked him to find out the truth about Natalie's life. And today, in front of everyone, we're going to hear what he found. Veronica, this is insane, Aunt Susan said. You investigated your own sister? I need to know if she's been lying to us. Veronica's eyes glittered with something that looked like desperation disguised as righteousness. If she's secretly wealthy, it proves she's been playing games with this family. And if she's not, then I can finally stop wondering. When does he present his findings? I asked. Right now. Veronica gestured to Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds, please share what you found. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. David Reynolds set his laptop on the table and opened it deliberately. His expression was carefully neutral, the face of someone who'd seen things he wished he hadn't. Before I begin, he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent restaurant, I need to clarify the scope of my investigation. Ms. Chin hired me to investigate her sister's finances and employment. I did that. But comprehensive background investigations require examining all relevant parties and relationships. That's standard practice. Veronica waved her hand impatiently. Yes, just tell us about Natalie. Reynolds pulled up a document. Report 1. Natalie Grace Kim, professional and financial background. The table went silent. A waiter approached, sensed the tension and retreated. Ms. Kim holds a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and a master's degree in Applied Mathematics from University of Washington. 7 years ago, she co-founded Quantum Systems, a cybersecurity firm specializing in quantum-resistant encryption algorithms. Veronica's confident smile began to flicker. Quantum Systems provides security solutions for government agencies, financial institutions and defense contractors. Their proprietary algorithms protect against emerging quantum computing threats. Current client list includes the Department of Defense, NSA, Homeland Security, and 12 of the 15 largest banks in America. Mom's mimosa glass stopped halfway to her mouth. 4 years ago, Quantum Systems was acquired by TechCore Industries for $280 million. Ms. Kim retained 45% ownership and full operational control as CEO. Her personal payout from the acquisition was $126 million. Gasps rippled around the table. Veronica's face went pale. Ms. Kim currently serves as CEO with an annual salary of $620,000 plus performance bonuses averaging $380,000. Her equity stake is valued at approximately $89 million. She maintains additional investment portfolios worth $24 million. Reynolds looked up. Natalie Kim's current net worth is approximately $178 million. She is one of the most successful female CEOs in the cybersecurity sector. She holds top-secret security clearance and has been consulted by 3 different presidential administrations on national security matters. The silence was so complete I could hear the rain hitting the windows. He slid a folder toward me. Ms. Kim, your complete professional profile. Everything your sister wanted to know. I didn't touch it. I already knew what was inside. Veronica found her voice shrill and panicked. You've been lying to us for 7 years? I never lied. I told you I worked in cybersecurity. I told you I developed algorithms. Every word I said was true. I just didn't specify the scale of what I'd built. You let us think you were nobody. Her voice cracked. You let us pity you. I let you reveal who you were when you thought I couldn't threaten your status, I said quietly. And now I know exactly who you are. Veronica slammed her hand on the table. This is exactly what I thought. You were hiding your success to judge us. To make yourself feel superior. Mr. Reynolds, Jason interrupted, his voice tight. Is the report complete? Reynolds's expression turned to stone. No, Mr. Chin. It's not. Veronica froze. What? As I mentioned, comprehensive background investigations examine all relevant parties. When investigating Ms. Kim's finances, standard practice required me to examine family financial relationships and patterns. He opened a second folder. His voice became clinical. In the course of my investigation, I conducted financial background checks on Ms. Kim's immediate family. What I found raised serious concerns. What kind of concerns? Dad asked slowly. Reynolds pulled out documents. Veronica Kim Chin and Jason Chin operate multiple business entities. Over the past 5 years, They've raised approximately $8.4 million from 63 individual investors through various investment schemes. Veronica's face drained of all color. Jason stood up. This is inappropriate. You were hired to investigate Natalie, not. Sit down, Mr. Chin, Reynolds said sharply. I'm not finished. Jason sat slowly, his jaw clenched. These investment schemes promised returns through tech startups, green energy projects, and real estate developments. I reviewed the actual investments made. Total legitimate investments. Approximately $300,000. Most lost money. Reynolds pulled out more documents, laying them across the table like cards in a poker game. The remaining $8.1 million was diverted to personal use. Your house purchase. Vehicle leases. Vacations. Designer clothing. Instagram content creation. All funded by investor money that was supposed to be invested. Aunt Susan gasped. That's fraud. Yes. Wire fraud, investment fraud, and securities fraud. When investors requested withdrawals, they were paid using money from new investors. That's a Ponzi scheme. He pulled out bank statements. Wire transfers from investor accounts directly to personal accounts. Credit card statements showing luxury purchases charged to business accounts. Fabricated quarterly statements showing returns that never existed. It's comprehensive and systematic fraud. Veronica started crying. You don't understand. We were going to pay everyone back. Jason's next venture was going to. Miss Chin, there is no next venture. Every opportunity you've promoted for 5 years has been fraudulent. You've been recruiting investors through your Instagram platform, using your lifestyle as proof of success, while that lifestyle was funded by the very money people were investing. Reynolds looked at Jason. Mr. Chin, you've moved money to offshore accounts. In the past 6 months, you've transferred $430,000 to accounts in the Cayman Islands. That's evidence of intent to flee and hide assets. Mom stood up, her face twisted with confusion and horror. Veronica, what is he talking about? What have you done? I didn't. We were going to fix it, Jason said. Veronica was sobbing now, mascara streaming down her face. Miss Chin, I've already reported these findings to the FBI and Securities and Exchange Commission, Reynolds said. They've been investigating your activities for 3 months. My report corroborated their evidence. They asked me to delay this presentation until they could coordinate with federal marshals. He checked his watch. Who should be arriving right now? As if on cue, for people in FBI windbreakers entered the restaurant. Behind them, 2 U.S. marshals. The entire restaurant went silent. Diners at other tables stared. Veronica Chin, Jason Chin, you're under arrest for wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. Veronica screamed. Actually screamed, a sound of pure panic that echoed through the restaurant. She tried to run, stumbling in her designer heels, but a marshal caught her arm. You have the right to remain silent, the agent began. Jason didn't run. He just sat there, all color drained from his face, watching his carefully constructed world collapse in real time. They cuffed them both. Veronica was crying so hard she could barely stand. Mom was screaming her name. Dad sat frozen, mouth open in shock. Grandmother started praying in Korean. As they walked Veronica past me, she twisted around, her eyes wild with desperation and rage. This is your fault. You did this. You're jealous of me. You always have been. I didn't commit fraud for 5 years, I said quietly. You did. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. I'm your sister. You have to help me. Use your money, hire lawyers. You can't just let them. Yes, I said. I can. They took them away. Through the restaurant, past dozens of staring strangers, out into the rain where police cars waited with flashing lights. Mom turned to me, her face a mask of betrayal and confusion. You knew, didn't you? You knew something was wrong. I suspected Veronica's lifestyle didn't match legitimate income. I didn't know she was committing fraud. If I had proof, I would have reported it. But you're worth $178 million and you never told us. Her voice rose. You let us praise Veronica while you had more money than she could even imagine. Because I needed to know if you'd love me without it, I said. And now I know you wouldn't. You loved Veronica's appearance of success. You loved the Instagram posts and the designer clothes and the illusion. You never once asked about my actual work. You never cared about what I'd built. That's not fair. Mom, Veronica hired an investigator to prove I was a fraud. She spent $12,000 trying to humiliate me in front of the entire family. She wanted to expose me as a liar. I stood up. She got her exposure. Just not the kind she expected. Reynolds began packing his laptop. Ms. Kim, for what it's worth, your sister's crimes had nothing to do with you. These schemes started before she even hired me. The investigation just accelerated the inevitable. Thank you for your thoroughness, Mr. Reynolds. One more thing. He pulled out a final document. There are 63 victims of this fraud. Total losses, approximately $8.4 million. Most will never recover their money. Your sister and brother-in-law spent it maintaining a fictional lifestyle. He slid the list toward me. I thought you should know who they hurt. I looked at the list. Retirees who'd invested their savings. Young couples who'd trusted Jason's promises. A single mother who'd put in her daughter's college fund. My sister had stolen from all of them to fund Instagram posts and designer handbags. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family, because what happened next changed everything. The legal proceedings moved with brutal efficiency. Veronica and Jason were denied bail. The prosecutor argued flight risk, given the offshore accounts and the $430,000 already moved. They spent the next 18 months in federal detention awaiting trial. The evidence was overwhelming. Wire transfers, fake investment documents, victim testimony, Instagram posts showing luxury purchases made with stolen money. Their lawyers advised them to plead guilty. Veronica pleaded guilty to 15 counts of wire fraud and securities fraud. Sentence: 12 years in federal prison, full restitution ordered. Jason pleaded guilty to 23 counts including money laundering. Sentence: 15 years. Everything was seized. The house, the cars, the designer clothes, all of it auctioned off. Total recovered, $840,000. 10% of what they'd stolen. The Instagram account that had been Veronica's pride, 47,000 followers watching her perfect life, was deleted after dozens of her victims found it and left comments about how their savings had funded her vacation photos. My parents' house became a war zone of blame and grief. Mom defended Veronica initially. She made mistakes, but she's still my daughter. You could help her, Natalie. You could hire better lawyers. No. She's your sister. She hired someone to investigate me because she couldn't stand the possibility that I might be successful. She spent 5 years stealing from innocent people to maintain a fake life. She called me a nobody while committing federal crimes. Those are her choices, not mine. Dad was quieter but no less accusatory. You're worth $178 million. You could help make the victims whole. I could. But I won't. Why not? Because it's not my responsibility to fix the damage Veronica caused. Those victims trusted her and Jason. They believed in them. They deserve justice, not a bailout that lets Veronica avoid accountability. That's cold, Natalie. That's boundaries, Dad. Something this family has never understood. The extended family fractured. Some blamed me for not warning them, as if I'd somehow known about Veronica's crimes and said nothing. Others blamed me for having money and not using it to fix everything. A few, very few, reached out to apologize for how I'd been treated. Aunt Susan sent a letter. I'm sorry we never saw you clearly. We were so dazzled by Veronica's surface that we never looked at your substance. I accepted those apologies, because they mattered. 3 months after Veronica's sentencing, I received a letter from her. Prison mail, regulated and monitored. Natalie, I know you hate me. I know you think I deserve this. But I'm begging you, please help me. Hire an appeals lawyer. Pay for better representation. You have so much money. You could get me out of here. I'm your sister. Please. I'm sorry for everything. I'll do anything. Please don't abandon me. I read it once. Then I filed it in a folder marked Evidence of Continued Manipulation. I didn't respond. 6 months after sentencing, I was contacted by a lawyer representing the fraud victims. Ms. Kim, I'm Robert Martinez's attorney. He and several other victims are forming a coalition to pursue civil action against your sister and brother-in-law. I understand. We also wanted to reach out to you. Several victims have mentioned that they'd feel more comfortable if someone in the family acknowledged what happened. Not financially, we're not asking for money. Just acknowledgement. I thought about it. I'll meet with them. I met with 12 victims at a community center. Faces ranging from angry to devastated to resigned. Robert Martinez, the retired engineer whose medical expense withdrawal had started everything. Sarah Johnson, a single mother who'd invested her daughter's college fund. Michael and Patricia Brown, retirees who'd lost $180,000. I'm Natalie Kim, I said. Veronica's sister. I want you to know, I had no knowledge of her fraud. If I had known, I would have reported it immediately. I'm sorry for what she did to you. Robert spoke first. Miss Kim, we don't blame you. We blame ourselves for believing her. You shouldn't. She was convincing. That's what made her dangerous. Are you going to help her? Sarah asked quietly. Everyone keeps saying you're rich. That you could hire lawyers to get her out. No. Veronica made choices that hurt dozens of people. She needs to face those consequences. I won't interfere with that. Michael nodded slowly. Thank you. We were afraid family money would get her out early. It won't. I promise you that. After the meeting, I established the Investment Fraud Victim Recovery Fund. $5 million to provide financial counseling and assistance to fraud victims nationwide. Not just Veronica's victims, but all victims of investment fraud. I didn't make Veronica's victims whole. That wasn't my responsibility. But I could help prevent others from experiencing what they'd experienced. It's been 4 years now. Veronica is serving her sentence at FCI Danbury. She writes occasionally, letters that shift between apologetic and manipulative. I don't respond. Jason is at a different facility. I've heard nothing from him. My parents and I have a distant relationship. They visit Veronica monthly. They've asked me to come with them. I've declined every time. She's changed, Mom said last time. Prison has humbled her. She understands what she did wrong. Good. Then she's exactly where she needs to be to learn that lesson. Don't you miss your sister? I miss the sister I thought I had. The one who didn't commit fraud and hire investigators to humiliate me. That sister never existed. Quantum Systems continues to expand. We're now valued at $890 million. We've opened offices in 3 countries. I've been profiled in Forbes, Fortune, and the Wall Street Journal. I speak at conferences about cybersecurity and quantum computing threats. I'm no longer hiding. Because I don't need to protect myself from Veronica's jealousy anymore. She's in prison. Her facade is destroyed. The truth is public. Last month I received a different kind of letter. From one of Veronica's Instagram followers, someone who'd watched her content for years. I'm writing to thank you. I was about to invest with Jason when the arrest happened. Your sister's posts made their life look so successful. I would have given them $50,000. My entire savings. The investigation saved me. So thank you. Even if you didn't mean to, you saved a lot of people. Maybe that's the real lesson. That truth is protective. That facades eventually crumble. That the person who looks most successful might be the one standing on the most unstable ground. I learned that family is not about blood or obligation or shared last names. It's about integrity, honesty, and choosing each other without conditions. It's about loving people for who they are, not what they appear to be. Veronica chose appearance over substance. She chose fraud over work. She chose to investigate me rather than examine her own choices. Those were her decisions. I chose truth, even when it destroyed my family's illusions. I chose boundaries even when they looked like cruelty to people who wanted me to enable Veronica. I chose to let her face consequences, even when I had the money to shield her from them. Those were my choices. And I'd make them again. Because you are not responsible for fixing disasters other people create. You are not obligated to sacrifice your peace to maintain someone else's lies. You are not cruel for refusing to enable someone's continued destruction. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step aside and let someone face exactly what they've built. If you've ever had to cut off toxic family to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. What would you have done in my situation? Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself even when it costs you relationships. Because you're not the villain for telling the truth. You're not heartless for having boundaries. And you're not responsible for protecting people from the consequences of their own choices. Not even when they're family. Especially not when they're family. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm.